We're live.
Yay!
We got your bio, your profile, but we need you to introduce yourself because you are hilarious and entertaining and a plethora of information.
Wow,
Take it away for us.
That is great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I am so excited to be here. My name's Ray Lozano, and gosh, I have been speaking since high school, believe it or not. I fell in love with talking about drugs and alcohol way back in the 80s in high school, and kind of have pursued this whole career of doing this. And I've done stand-up comedy. I've worked with a lot of comics. I've written jokes for some TV shows. And I probably people a little bit older in your audience will remember that show, Last Comic Standing. Do you remember that back in the day? They had the comics in the room, and it was like a reality show for comedians. And I, had the opportunity to get to the point where I was going to go down the comedy road. But the thing about comedy is you get paid with a lot of alcohol, and I'm not a big alcohol drinker. And it was hard for me to do stand-up comedy without saying stuff like, be a better person, wear your seatbelt, don't drink and drive. And so, so I am working in the field with parents now, and I love it.
That's actually, you need comedy when you're working with parents, because you couldn't write the things that we have to talk about, or the things that we are living amongst, because they are often, you feel like you're in a comedian show because you're like, I can't believe this is my actual life.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and I have so many parents that walk away from my presentations like it was watching stand-up comedy, but I learned a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted right there. So that worked out well.
So when you go into schools, what do you talk about, and how do you know all about it?
I talk about drugs and alcohol, so that's my area of expertise. So anything from alcohol, marijuana, vaping, any of the current drugs that are out there, trends that are happening. So I have a team, and we're always doing research. And it's funny, I come from a non-use background, so I've never been drunk, never smoked a cigarette, never did anything like that. But I came from a family that was crazy when it came to drugs and alcohol. I'm the baby of the family, and I had one brother who was a drug trafficker, another brother who ran away from home during the 60s. I was born in 65. I had a sister that ran meth from El Paso, Texas, up to Chicago and New York and Florida, just carloads of meth.
Whoa.
But as a kid growing up, I saw my dad, who was a really nice guy. He would drink and then he would fight. And I thought, why does he do that? And then I saw my mom, who was really nice. She would drink and then she would yell at us. And at an early age, I had the why question. Why does that happen? Because everybody asks, why does that take place? Or why do people continue to do drugs? Or why do kids get started? All those why questions. And I just had to answer that why question for myself. Did a presentation in high school, and it turned into an amazing lifelong career.
So why? Like, I think every mom is sitting here, or dad, and we really struggle. We want to be preventative. And we also, if we have someone who we suspect is doing it, or they're going to try it, why?
Here it is.
Let's go.
And I love talking about this. The thing we have to understand as parents is kids, we feel like we're talking English to them. We feel like we're trying to get that across. But kids speak a whole different language. And the good part is, way back in the day, when we had to hunt animals for our survival, okay? So figure all of us have this, cave condominium, and we all live there. And at night we come and we sit around this fire and we tell stories and we do all that way back in the day, okay? And we're sitting there, and there's older people like me, and there's young kids sitting around the fire, all ages. Somebody comes running out of the bush, and they have 10 sharp sticks, okay? And they look at all of us and they holler, hey, about a mile away in the bush is this creature made out of teeth, meat, and fur. Who wants to help me kill it with a sharp stick? Now, asking both of you, what is an old guy like me going to say? No, thank you. I'm going to sit right here and make some decisions for the tribe. right? What are all the young people in the tribe going to say? Yeah, let's go, get more sticks, get that new invention called fire. And they take off after this creature, right? That's because kids, their brain sees dangerous things as fun. And that's what happens. And so, to put it real simple, when a kid sees a dangerous thing, he doesn't think like an old guy like me, boy, I better not ride that skateboard. I better not try that jump. I better not light that thing on fire and hold on to it. But a kid's brain says, let's do it, right? And that's where we get in trouble. And so the thing that happens, she's running to take notes. So what happens, and this is where we get into big time trouble as parents. When we tell kids things are dangerous, we think we're giving them great information, but in their head, they're like, I think I'm going to try that. I don't believe you. And so the thing is, it happens with law enforcement, even the DARE program, which had some success to it, was telling kids how dangerous drugs are. And the officer was thinking, wow, I'm doing a good job scaring these kids. But kids were like, oh man, I want to try that. Wow, if I smoke that, I can, and so that's where we get into trouble as parents, is we have forgotten that. And so we talk to kids like we would talk to an adult. So if all three of us worked in an office and we had two 18-year-old interns, and I looked at all five of us and I said, hey, when you leave here today, there's going to be a police officer down the road, and he's going to be hiding in a bush, giving out tickets. The three of us would go, okay, we better slow down. But the young kids are like, I don't know if that's true or not. Boom. That's where we get into trouble right there.
Oh, that all makes so much sense.
Thanks.
Wow.
Yeah. And so as soon as I talk to parents about it, they're like, oh, I think I've been going about this.
Well, what do we say to that? I mean, like, obviously we what, like, so what, if you're in a school talk, because every parent must be like, well, great. Like, I can't talk to them about it because they're going to go, like, what's the solution here to educating our kids on the decisions they make?
Perfect. Good. It starts at a really young age. And so you have to start nurturing that right at the very beginning. I talk to my kids about drugs and alcohol, and I'll tell you a little bit more how I did all that down the road. But we, as parents, what happens is we forget what it's like to be a kid or a child. And when you had, and I don't know if you guys have kids or not, but at the beginning you would tell them stuff and they would listen to you, or, don't touch that, it's hot, or, don't put that in your mouth. And they would listen to us in the beginning. And for some reason, parents believe like that's going to continue the rest of this kid's life. But there comes a point right around age 2 where they start to identify, wow, I am my own person. And because in the beginning, they think that they're clumped together with you. So if you have one baby crying and you put the other baby there, that other baby will start crying as well, because they think that they're like one unit. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, at age 2, what they call the terrible 2, is a child starts to realize, I'm independent. And so what happens is they get older, they start realizing that they're more independent. And that's where the struggle comes in, because we expect to tell kids, clean your room, boom, room is clean. Do the dishes, boom, dishes are done. But it doesn't work that way because of how their brain is starting to develop. And we need to nurture that brain to learn how to make decisions.
How?
That makes sense? How?
Yeah,
okay.
It does. But, how? Like, how? I know we start young, but what if I have a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old right now who's about to go off on their own into the great wide world of this independence?
Right. So the thing is, it starts at whatever age they are is where you can start. So if there's somebody watching right now and their child's 4, that's where you start. If they're 10, that's where you start. But parents need to remember this. A child's brain is starting to be independent. I don't know if either one of you have ever had that situation where somebody knocks on your door, you answer the door, and they're like, hello, my name is Jason. And they start trying to convince you to believe the way they do with whatever they're selling. Or it could be solar panels. Let me tell you why solar panels are great. Let me tell you why my religion's the best. Let me tell you why this vacuum's. And what they're doing is they're trying to convince you to their side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, the problem is with that, it's a one-sided situation that's happening. But if you had a situation where instead of Jason knocking on your door one time trying to convince you to believe the way they do, if Jason came over to your house and had dinner and you got to know Jason, and all of a sudden you develop this friendship with Jason, and then pretty soon you have a conversation where Jason goes, well, what do you believe about vacuum cleaners? Do you think your vacuum cleaner is the best? Well, man, that's great. I found this vacuum. And what it is, it's a partnership. It's a friendship, because as parents, we just want to drop information on kids and have them start believing the way we do without us asking them, how do you feel about this? Now, this is where it gets tricky. And we speak different languages from kids. And so kids speak an emotional language, and adults after the age of 22, we speak an intellectual language. Now, the thing is, those two languages, and I wish I had my little chart to show you, and you can find this on a TED Talk that I did. My sister, who is a drug addict, spoke an emotional language, and everything was based on emotion, like a teenager's. All of his stuff, all of their stuff is based on emotion, okay? So you've seen like 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, their brain thinks in an emotional way. So everything is this big, huge emotional thing that happens to them. You go into a grocery store, they want a candy bar. They don't get that candy bar. What do? They cry. They come home, time to go to bed. They don't want to go to bed. What do? They cry. They want to go outside. They can't go outside. They cry. Everything is this big, huge emotional thing that happens to them. I'm with my grandson. He wets his little pants. He cries, right? Everything is this big, huge emotional thing, because that's how their brain works. Now, for us, because we're on the other side of 22, we think intellectually. And so for us, things that go into our head happen on an intellectual level, right? There's a candy bar there. I shouldn't eat it before dinner, but I want it. What do? I eat it, right? Somebody tells me I can't go outside, but I want to go outside. What do? Probably go outside, right? Time to go to bed. I'm not ready to go to bed. And so I figured these things out. So picture over here is emotion, and over here is intellectual. Now, when the two languages talk to each other, they hate each other. The more intellectual talks, the more matter emotion gets. The more emotion talks, the more intellectual gets mad. So parents speak intellectual to kids, but their brain can't get it. Kids speak intellectual to parents, and parents have forgotten how to speak an intellectual language. Let me give you an example, okay? Let's say Kat and I were best friends, okay? So Nat, get ready, you're gonna be on the spot, okay? So you'll be able to answer it, you'll be fine. Kat and I are best friends, okay? We've been neighbors for a long time. I have a key to her house. She has a key to my house. She knows my kids. I know her kids. She does a barbecue. We go over. That kind of relationship, that kind of great neighbor relationship, okay? So one day I'm sitting in the living room, and I get this knock on the door, and there's Kat standing in my doorway, hair's all messed up. She has this big old floppy sweatshirt on and sweatpants, and I could tell she's been crying a lot. And I look at her and I go, Kat, what is wrong? She looks at me and she can barely get the sentence out. And she's like, my yellow lab buddy just died. Okay. And I look at her and I said, oh, Kat, we've been friends a long time, and I thought this was going to happen to Buddy. Come on in. Come on in here. Sit down. And I sit at the kitchen table. I give her a little glass of water. I pull out my laptop and I say, Kat, check this out. Let me show you what I did for you. I knew Buddy was going to die, so this is what I did. I made you a PowerPoint presentation with music and cool slides. Check this out. Right? And the first slide is her and Buddy playing in the backyard, all happy when he was a puppy, right? The next slide is this slide of him growing up. Then the next slide is, the kids together with Buddy. Then the next slide is a super cool pie chart. And it shows that most yellow labs live to be 12, but Buddy lived to be 14. Awesome, right? And then the next pie chart and graph shows that yellow labs get cancer right around age 14 in their hips, or 12 in their hips, but Buddy didn't have that happen. And I keep showing her pie chart after graph, after quote, after, meme, all this stuff. Now, Nat, get ready. Is Kat getting happy about this PowerPoint presentation of her dog dying?
No.
Not at all, right? Is she getting madder the more I show this to her?
Yeah. Yes, because she feels like you don't understand how she feels.
Yes, you're on it, right? Now, is the information I'm giving her good information? Yeah, it is, right? It's timely information. All right, here comes the big question. Let me see if you remember how to speak an emotional language, okay? What does she need?
She needs to be comforted, and she needs love.
Exactly. And she needs a hug, right? She doesn't need all this information. What she needs is an emotional connection, because what is she coming to me with? Emotion. What am I coming to her with? Intellectual, right? Let's reverse that. Knock on the door. She's standing there crying. I look at her and I say, Nat, what's wrong? And she's like, or Kat, what's wrong? And she's crying. And she's like, my yellow lab just died, Buddy. And I look and I go, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And I throw my arms around her, right? And I hug her. She has her head on my shoulder and she just starts crying and I start crying with her, right? And we stand there at the doorway and we're crying and neighbors are driving by like, what's going on? And she's crying, I'm crying. And after we had this good cry for about 10 minutes or so, I sit her down, I get her a glass of water and I just let her pour her heart out to me, right? And then I look and I go, oh my gosh, this is terrible, man. This is awful. But it's kind of cool. I think most yellow labs only live to be 12, but Buddy lived to be 14, didn't he? And did Buddy ever get cancer? I don't think he did, right? Most yellow labs do. Am I giving her the same exact information? Yes. But what am I doing first? I'm making an emotional connection before I try to give the information out. Because what happens is the more information I give her when she comes to me on an emotional level, what happens is the madder she's going to get and there's no connection made. That's what we do a lot of times as parents, is we dump information on kids and kids don't get it. And it gets to them madder at us and it makes them upset with us. And there's things we do with our kids that, clean your room. Why? And as parents, we take that why question as they're challenging our authority. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out inside their head, why is cleaning my room important? And so we take that as a challenge and then we'll holler something, because I'm dad and that's what I say. That does nothing for a kid. That doesn't help them put those pieces together inside their head. I need to clean my room because I'm a part of this society. I belong to this house. That's why it's important to clean this room. So when we talk to our kids about vaping, about alcohol, about marijuana, number one, we need to find out what they think about it first. Is it going to scare us as parents? Heck yeah, it is. It's going to totally scare us. And so, but the thing is, we need to come at it with an emotional connection because that's the only way we're going to get through to our kids.
So
how does that make sense?
How did you talk to your kids about drugs and alcohol?
My daughter, age 4 or 5, I wanted to, it was super important for me to kind of put inside her head what a good guy is like, And so I started this at age 4, that I wanted to teach my daughter what to look for in a guy. Now, does that mean I sit down with a whiteboard and I draw stuff and I, hey, figure this? No, because 4-year-olds speak emotion. So, and I have examples for all the ways I kind of taught my kids on this. So I came home one Friday and it was after work and my daughter had been out of school. So she had turned our living room into a Barbie utopia. Okay. So I don't know if you play Barbie. I love playing Barbies with my daughter and I, here with my grandson, I love playing all that stuff. So my daughter had everything set up. She had the Barbie dream house, she had the Barbie airplane, she had the Barbie Corvette, she had the Barbie 12-person jacuzzi made out of a shoebox, she had the shaved head Barbie, she had the broken arm Barbie, she had the Hecho en Mexico Barbie, she had them all, okay? Yard sales, right? So I come in and my daughter looks at me and she says, Dad, will you, play Barbies with me? Now I just got off work. I'm tired. Throw my keys in the bowl. I said, let me talk to Mom for a little bit, get a little drink of water. Then I'll come and play. So I come in, say hi to the wife and all that, kind of catch up with her, drink a little water, reset my brain. And I come into the living room to play Barbies. She's totally excited. And I said, all right, how does this work? She hands me a Ken doll, right? Who somewhere along the line has lost his pants. And and she goes, you're Ken. And I said, all right. And she goes, and I'm Barbie. And I'm like, great. And I said, how does this work? She goes, we're going to go behind the dream house and I'm going to get everybody all set up. And then you knock on the door and we'll start playing. Like, okay, great. Here we go. Now, every time we would do this with our kids, and my wife and we would always speak emotion to our kids. So this was not a planned event, but this was an event that just kind of unfolded because this is the way we were thinking with our kids. She goes behind the Barbie dream house, and then I knock on the door. She opens the door, and I look at her, and I said, hey, I'm new to the neighborhood. What's your name? She goes, I'm Barbie. She goes, what's your name? I said, I'm Ken. And she goes, where are you from? I said, California. And I just got here and I just live a couple houses down. And she says, oh, that's great. Then I asked her this question. I said, can I come in? What do you think Barbie said?
No.
Sure, come on in, right? Now, let me ask you this. Is this a potential dangerous situation for a young female to ask somebody in she doesn't know? Totally, right? Okay. So I'm starting to realize this. So I'm like, boy, is this your house? She says, yeah, let me show you around. She shows me the kitchen. She shows me the garage. She shows me all this stuff. And I says, what's going on? She says, there's a party in the backyard. I says, really? I says, can we go check out this party? What did Barbie say? Sure, let's go check out this party. I watched my daughter playing Barbies with her, introduce me to all of her friends like she knew me really, really well. Like I was her best friend. And I go, wow. And then I'm looking at the dream house and I says, what is that? She goes, that's an elevator. I says, where does it go? And she goes, it goes up to the bedrooms. And I said, can we go to the bedrooms? And what did Barbie say?
Sure.
Sure, let's go, right? So now it's just Barbie and this person she's met for maybe 40 minutes heading upstairs and going into the bedroom. Is that a potentially dangerous situation? Sure is. So then we walk down the hallway and she shows me all the bedrooms. Next thing you know, Barbie and Ken are sitting on the bed. Very dangerous situation. So we're having this little conversation and I look at my daughter, or I look at Barbie and I said, gosh, you know what? I really don't have a place to live right now. Can I live at the dream house? And what did Barbie say? Sure. And I have no way to look for a job. Can I borrow that little Corvette out there and drive it around? Sure. Do you have any money I can borrow? Sure. Every single thing Ken asked for was yes. Sure. Okay. Here you go. Yes. And she was quick to get it. So I hit a little imaginary pause button on the floor and I said, honey, go tell Mom everything you know about Ken. She got up. She was happy. She ran into the kitchen. She's telling my wife, Mom, everything. And Ken came over. He's really cool. He doesn't have a job. He wants to live with us. I had to give him money. And I can hear her. And all of a sudden the conversation goes from where I could hear it all the way down to where I'm like really straining to because they're whispering now. Next thing I know, I hear these little 4-year-old stompy feet coming out to the living room. She grabs all of her Barbies, rushes them up to Ken, and she goes, you're going to have to leave now. When you have a job, a car, and a house, and some money, maybe you could come back, but right now, you got to go, right? And so did I teach my daughter a little bit about guys? Sure, I did, right? And so what I did over and over and over again is I reinforced things with my daughter that I wanted her to learn, not by giving her rules or giving her instructions, but sitting on the floor and playing some type of role play game.
What if you don't have a 4-year-old, right? What if you're past, like, I think that a lot of us are past the point of, like, now it's conversation, like, now they're,
Right.
a most majority of these people are older. And I mean, your thoughts on the ways we can connect with them outside of, a lot of parents, their teens don't have, or tweens don't have a lot of time for them. And so, it's hard to build that relationship again and have that conversation when you're already fragile. It's
Right.
like a very hard.
Right. The thing is, you need to figure out how to reconnect with that, because that's where it's going to come in. Speaking an emotional language and having the relationship. It's like that person coming to the door. So with my son and my wife lost a connection like that as well. We started to see things happen in my son's life, and we had to step back and go, all right, how do we fix this? I couldn't just start dropping instructions on my son. You got to be nicer to mom. You got to do this with mom.
Yeah.
You got to stop playing so many video games. So all they did is they went out, and my wife talks about this because it was actually kind of painful at first, because she wanted to give my son instructions. But what she did is she just started greeting him at the door with some chicken nuggets. She sat down when he was playing video games, and she just would sit there and watch him play video games for a while. And then after doing that for a while, said, hey, do you want to go out to dinner and talk about video games? She's like, heck yeah, man, let's go get some burgers and do that. So she had to rebuild that relationship. If you just drop information on your kids, and I know everybody's frazzled, I know, you think, wow, because what you want to do is you want to get your kids to start thinking, because there's going to be a period where you're not going to be around anymore, and they're going to be confronted with something. I saw this happen all the time with kids that first went to college when I worked a treatment program. Kids didn't know how to make a decision. They hadn't been talked to about drugs and alcohol. And so when they got confronted with it, they didn't know what to do. So it all goes back to developing that relationship with kids.
I mean, I think that's such a great point for so many parents as we hear this. I think the common theme all of us can believe and take from this is that, connection and trust and a mutual relationship is really what every teen and tween is looking for, is to launch on their own and make their own decisions. But with the trust of you and us helping them with a voice of reason, they can make better decisions into kind of that area.
Right. And the other thing you need to really look at is the home environment. And, what is a child coming home to? And I know I put a lot of this on parents, and, but do you guys remember playing tag as a kid?
Yes, always.
Yeah, not the app, but the actual get outside in the sunshine tag, right? And there'd be that point where you were hiding and somebody was looking for other people, and then you would jump out of a bush. Remember that? And you take off running as fast as you can, and they were about ready to tag you, and you'd put your hand on the tree that was base, and what would you holler right there? As soon as you put your hand on the tree, what would you holler?
Home free. What is it? Home free?
Home free, or you would holler safe. Right?
Safe, yeah.
And so you would put your hand on that. And when you put your hand on that tree and you hollered safe, what would happen is there would be this chemical that would be released into your brain that said, I'm okay here. I belong here. This is where I'm at. Now, I don't know how often you guys end up on high school campuses, but I'm on high school campuses all the time. How often do you think kids get made fun of? All the time.
All day, every day.
Every day. How often do you think the F-bomb gets dropped?
All day, every day.
All day, every day. The one kid whose shirt is kind of old, how often do they make fun of him? All day.
All day, every day.
Right. So what a child needs to have is they need to have an opportunity where they can come to their house, put their hand on the door and say, safe. I'm safe here. I'm going to be okay here. Everybody just did terrible things to me, but I know here I'm going to be safe. When I used to do drug and alcohol counseling, one of the sad thoughts that used to run through my mind all the time, and I hated thinking this, is like, gosh, if this kid didn't have you as a mom, I bet he wouldn't use. Because I would watch the mom just peck at this kid, and I'd ask, what is it like when you come home? And we would do counseling session. As soon as I open the door, my mom's on me. She's on me till I go to sleep. In the morning, she's on me. And do you ever have any other conversations other than school, dishes? And he's like, no. And I did that with my kids, and my son called me out on it. And it was the hardest thing because I thought I had things, together. And I was sitting down with my son at dinner one night and just doing instructions. And that's the point that I got to with my son is all I did as a dad was give instructions. And my son looked at me and goes, Dad, you're just like a parrot. Straight out of the blue. And I'm like, what do you mean a parrot? He goes, you say the same things all the time. And he goes like this, he goes, rock, clean your room, do the dishes, do your homework. And I realized I had gotten to the place where I no longer had conversations with my son. All I was doing was giving him instructions. Parents, you know what? If your kid comes home and you say, how was your day? And they go, okay. What'd you learn? Nothing. And they go off into the room. I always put it back on the parents because it's from the top down. Parents need to learn how to teach their kids to have a conversation. And so that starts at any age and it goes back to food. And I wish I had more time to explain this, but it always goes back to food. I've changed programs just with cookies. And so what happens is when we provide food to somebody inside our primordial brain, it says, I'm okay. Somebody's taking care of me. How often do you get together with, well, not right now, but prior, how often did you get together with friends and family, right? And how often was food there? Almost every single time, because that adds to the experience. It goes to our very primordial part of our brain, and it says, this person is providing for me. And we did that with kids in our neighborhood. Our house became the safe house, but we had a lot of rules in our house, and the rules made sense to kids. So if parents are watching right now and they're 14 or 15, they're going to have to go all the way back. And the good part is a lot of times kids are really receptive to this. Where just, provide food, make them some nuggets.
They want that relationship, right? They crave that relationship. So they're always willing to be there. Well, we can't thank you enough. And I think you've given us so much to think about, especially the biggest one being, build a relationship before you come at them with a list of to-dos and whatnots and what tos.
Right.
You're actually having a conversation with them about what they're interested in rather than what you're interested in and what you think they should know, because they're not listening anyways unless they're actually dialed into you. So
right. So ask those questions. What do you think? What do your friends think? How do you believe on this? And start going that way and just start having a conversation, especially when they're 14, 15, because it's really changing.
And when in doubt, play dumb. Be like, did you see this? I can't believe this is true. And then they're like, yeah, it happened. It's so and see. Go to TikTok. They've got everything you ever needed to know,
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
We really appreciate your time, and hopefully we get to do this again because you are you speak a language I think a lot of parents can understand. So thank you for really making it about the child and our relationships with them. It really is something we can all work on, even once we have great relationships.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of that.
We can find you at Ray.
Yeah, the best place is Ray Lozano, RayLozano.com. And everything all my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, newsletter, I would recommend that parents sign up for the twice a month newsletter that we send out. It's on current trends and drugs and information on that.
Well, that's helpful.
That is actually really helpful. And that's great. That's amazing. And truly, thank you for sharing your insight and your stories. And I think that we wish we had more time. My gosh, but there are 7 children at home who are not in school yet, and a dog scratching at the door. So we
go.
It's time to go build relationships.
There you go. Perfect.
So much.
Thank you so much.
You bet.